Hello, good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Ben Thompson and Sally Nugent.
Our headlines this morning. Talks through the night to try to break the Brexit trade deal deadlock. The UK calls the EU's current offer unacceptable.
Health leaders urge extreme caution in easing coronavirus restrictions, warning it could lead to a third wave of infections.
Good morning. He's still the champion. Anthony Joshua knocks out Kubrat Pulev to defend his world titles and set up a potential super fight with Tyson Fury.
Good morning to you. It's looking more unsettled now for the foreseeable future. We've got low pressure sweeping in today. It's going to bring stronger winds and outbreaks of rain. But it's also going to introduce some milder air as well. Join me later for all the details.
Good morning. It is Sunday, December the 13th. Our top story this morning. Last-ditch talks are continuing in Brussels this morning as the UK and EU officials attempt to break the deadlock over a post-Brexit trade deal.
Boris Johnson and the President of the European Commission will decide later whether to abandon or continue negotiations beyond today's deadline. But after months of failed discussion, both sides have warned that a no-deal outcome is likely.
With the latest, our political correspondent Ian Watson.
A brief glimpse of the UK's chief negotiator in Brussels. He's been locked in discussions behind closed doors with the EU, and the negotiating teams continued to talk overnight, but without much progress. A government source told the BBC, as things stand, the offer on the table from the EU remains unacceptable. The EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and Boris Johnson will talk today and decide whether it's worthwhile continuing with negotiations. Theresa May's de facto deputy, when she was dealing with Brexit at number 10, is urging both sides to keep talking.
It is hugely in Britain's interests and in the European Union's interests for there to be a deal at the end of this. So although it's long and painful and difficult, it is worth keeping talking.
But some in Boris Johnson's party are calling on him to stand firm.
No deal will be some short-term disruption until markets readjust. But the long-term effect of signing up to a bad deal will be for decades, possibly even perpetuity. And that will be hamstringing our democracy and our economy going forward. And we can't do that.
Previous Brexit deadlines have come and gone. But after today's talks in Brussels, it's possible that there will be an answer to the question. Deal or no deal? Ian Watson, BBC News.
Relaxing coronavirus restrictions next week could trigger a third wave of infections during the busiest time of year for hospitals, according to NHS bosses.
NHS Providers, which represents hospital trusts in England, has written to the Prime Minister urging extreme caution when moving areas to a lower tier, as Lisa Hampley reports.
Winter is when hospitals are at their busiest, but the pandemic means this year will be unlike any other. Hospital leaders in England are worried the high infection rate in the north during the autumn may soon be taking hold in the south. In the letter, NHS providers say there were 13,000 COVID patients in hospital in England this week, compared to 500 in early September. The chief executive has urged caution ahead of the review of tiers on Wednesday.
You just need to be really careful about relaxing the restrictions on social contact because we know that inevitably at the moment what that means is more COVID cases, more pressure on the NHS, and to be frank, more people dying unnecessarily.
All four nations have been under tough measures in recent weeks, but the R number, which shows whether the epidemic is growing or shrinking, is thought to be above 1 in some areas. The letter to the Prime Minister says there's been a worrying increase in infection rates across a wide range of areas, including Essex, Kent, London and parts of Lincolnshire. And areas should be moved into Tier 3, the highest level of restrictions, as soon as this is needed, without any delay. Concern is mounting that household mixing and travel over Christmas could lead to a third wave. The hospital leaders stopped short of asking for a review of the policy, but urged the Prime Minister to lead a better public debate about the risks. The government says it won't hesitate to take necessary action to protect local communities, and its review will be based on the latest data. That'll include factors such as infection rates amongst the over 60s and pressure on the NHS. Lisa Hampley, BBC News.
Elderly care home residents and staff in Scotland will receive the coronavirus vaccine from tomorrow. Logistical challenges with the Pfizer-BioNTech jab make it difficult to deliver in the community. But changes to how it can be transported and stored mean a care home rollout is possible in Scotland. It's still unclear, though, when homes in England and Wales will receive the vaccine.
Across the Atlantic, the first coronavirus vaccinations in the United States will begin tomorrow after the Pfizer jab was authorised for emergency use.
It comes as the country recorded the world's highest death toll for a single day yesterday, with 3,309 COVID-related deaths.
Well, we can speak now to our North America correspondent, David Willis. David, morning to you. Just how much of a challenge, a logistical challenge is this? We've talked about what's happening here in the UK, but in the US, of course, much, much bigger.
Oh, it's a huge challenge, Ben. And the Army General, the man who's in charge of the logistical effort of rolling out this vaccine to some 330 million people, drew on a wartime analogy today. He said that the authorization of the vaccine on Friday was like D-Day in the sense that it was the beginning of the end, but not the end itself. And General Gustav Perny said that there was a lot of tough work ahead, but this was indeed a good start. And there are a lot of challenges, not least because, of course, the vaccine has to be kept at -70 Fahrenheit temperatures. There are certain shipping requirements and so on. But the first shipments will go out tomorrow. That's Sunday here. The first jabs will actually be administered on Monday, and thereafter it will be health workers, frontline responders who will be given preference, along with members of elderly and retirement communities. And it could be the spring or the summer of next year before the vaccine is more widely available here.
OK, David, for now, thank you. David Willis there in the US for us on that rollout of the vaccine in America.
Anthony Joshua has retained his 3 heavyweight boxing titles after beating the Bulgarian Kubrat Pulev last night. 1,000 fans were allowed to watch at Wembley Arena as Joshua knocked his opponent off his feet several times over 9 rounds before the referee called time. His victory paves the way for a potential fight against Britain's other heavyweight champion, Tyson Fury.
And Virgin Galactic's rocket-powered tourist plane has been forced to abort a milestone test flight after a technical malfunction. Spaceship Two, as it's known, which will carry paying customers into space, was on its first crewed test flight, but it had to turn back after an hour. It did land safely in New Mexico with the 2 pilots on board.
A little bit scary.
Amazing.
Yes.
Incredible when it does work according to plan.
It is 8 minutes past 6. Let's take a look at the front pages of some of today's newspapers. Nearly all of them, you won't be surprised to hear, lead on the Brexit trade talks, which are expected to end today, with or without a deal. Mail on Sunday headlines with the claim that Angela Merkel wants Britain to crawl across broken glass. That is according to an unnamed government source.
Well, the Sunday Times says supermarkets are stockpiling food after being told that a no-deal Brexit is a possibility. The paper says emergency planners predict it could lead to panic buying on the scale that could dwarf the scenes that we saw at the start of the pandemic.
The Observer reports on Boris Johnson facing anger from senior Conservatives and business leaders over his handling of the final stage of these negotiations. It says the talks have caused astonishment in his own party.
And the Sunday Telegraph says a multi-billion-pound bailout package is being drawn up to support industries that could be hardest hit by a no-deal Brexit. Well, it reports that the proposals will include help for sheep farmers, for fishermen, for car makers and for chemical suppliers.
I just want to show you one of the back pages this morning. Manchester Derby was played last night. Shall I show you what the Mail on Sunday think about it? See that? Yeah.
I think they should say what they really mean.
Not the best match ever, a 0-0. They call it a stinker. And they say, Pepper's been warned, you will never win the title playing like that. Do you know what? Football, it's a funny old time for football, isn't it? You know, no crowds for most of the time. Yep. Tiny amount of supporters now. It's strange. We're getting some strange football results.
Speaking of a lack of crowds, theatres still closed in most parts of the country. And so you might not be able to go and see a panto, which, of course, makes a ton of money for theatres at this time of year. that often sees them through the quiet winter months of January, February and March. Well, one way of dealing with that is this firm and group of actors who have set up a plan to be delivered to your street in a cab, and they will perform the panto in your street, so all your neighbours can get out, reminiscent of those scenes of clapping for the NHS on a Thursday night on your doorstep, and you watch the panto come rain or shine. Now, imagine most places it might be a little cold and a little wet, but nonetheless they're trying to bring a bit of sunshine to streets across the country if you can't get down the theatre. It's a great idea.
I love a bit of a mystery.
Oh, go on.
Let's have a look at this. Beautiful, beautiful cat. Turns up in Southampton, is adopted by a family who think, you know, this beautiful cat's kind of come into their home. There you can see, this is Ivan, the cat, who came in from the cold, because when they took him to the vets, they checked his microchip. He's Russian.
How did he get here?
Well, that is the mystery. They actually don't know. They're saying that they checked the microchip. He's travelled from Russia, but the device that he has implanted does not give the exact address. So how he got here, I've no idea.
Does that chip not give you like a route? It'd be good if it gave you kind of like a Google Maps route.
I think you're asking an awful lot of a microchip there, Ben.
It'd be great coming on the ship somehow, stowaway. And a lovely picture in the mail this morning. This is a leaked Christmas card, we are led to believe, from the Cambridges. It's their family Christmas card. And it was posted on Facebook by a recipient, so someone who received this card from them. It's thought that the picture was taken at Amma Hall, their Norfolk home, with all of them. Now, traditionally, we're told that they would normally use a picture that's been seen before, but this one has not. So this was a Christmas card sent to NHS staff, and on it says, to all the amazing NHS staff, we can never thank you enough for all the dedication and sacrifices you have had to make this year. We'll be forever grateful. And both William and Kate have signed the card.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.